graphic television and film, NBC networks, PBS, and the Turner networks. Those of us in the room that are of a certain age will undoubtedly remember being glued to our television sets during National Geographic specials, during which we were immersed in the world of wildlife, where we got to observe and were captivated by the struggles and the triumphs of animals in the wild. Kevin brought to us stories like that on killer whales, squid, and dolphin, on tigers, wolves, and cheetahs. Not limited to stories of nature, he's also worked on films focused on people, like Martin Luther King Jr., and on serious subjects like war. Testament to his skill as a writer in film and television, his peers regularly sought his counsel on projects that they might be struggling with a bit, and they needed somebody to help them just get it right, get it across the finish line. And he was always generous with his talent and his time, and he would help his peers make their projects shine. These skills were recognized formally as well, and he has received numerous awards, including 3 Emmy Awards and 6 additional Emmy nominations, 3 Cine Golden Eagle Awards, the prestigious Chris Award, and a Peabody Award. So clearly Kevin has quite a bit of talent in the arena of filmmaking. His storytelling abilities are not limited to film, however, and he's written a couple of fantastic books. Actually, they're in the lobby if you want to pick one up yourself. I love them both. I highly recommend them. His first book, Islands Under Fire, tells of his adventures, and in some cases misadventures, of his efforts to try to protect the Puerto Rican island of Culebra. His most recent book, Oceans Apart, The Wanderings of a Young Mariner, tell of his days as a young sailor aboard merchant ships during the Vietnam War. Some of these stories are pretty colorful and quite interesting, and so I was teasing him recently because I have to wonder about those stories of this young sailor that weren't quite suitable for print, but he wouldn't tell me. But perhaps later at the party tonight we can kind of all gang up on him and get him to tell us some of those sea stories that he couldn't put in print. So many of us in this room can attest to the fact that his gifts go beyond filmmaking and writing as well. Fortunately for us, he is also a skilled teacher and mentor. He is a professor at Savannah College of Art and Design, where he teaches filmmaking. And I'm told he's generated quite a little cult following of environmental filmmakers who admire his considerable talents. Evidence of the impact he's having with young filmmakers is apparent at every year's Blue Ocean Film Festival, where numerous SCAD students and graduates present their films. And through those films, it's very clear that they have a passion for telling ocean stories. That passion was ignited by Kevin McCarey. All of us enjoying these films tonight owe Kevin our thanks, because he has been a huge part of making this film festival what it is. And it was his idea and his energy to create the Emerging Filmmakers competition, and we will award some of those young filmmakers later tonight. So before we bring Kevin up here, I want to play a little film to further introduce you to Captain McCarey. So enjoy that.
I think when you're honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award, it's really an opportunity to consider what you've actually done with your life. And for me, it's especially been an opportunity to reflect on my relationship with the sea and with the marine environment. I was raised in Hudson Valley in New York. I always dreamed of following its waters to the open ocean and beyond. And so I went to New York Maritime College. And there, every summer, we set sail on the training ship, the Empire State Ford, across the Atlantic to ports in Europe. And en route, we learned how to navigate by the sun, by stars. We learned how to steer the ship. And we learned how to swab the decks, of course. And I graduated with a degree in marine science and a deck officer's license. I was really looking forward to sailing on wonderful, elegant passenger liners to, say, Hawaii and the South Seas. But life had other plans. There was a war going on. I ended up on these old rust buckets, some in worse shape than others, and they were carrying munitions to Vietnam. It was like sailing on floating sticks of dynamite, and I wrote about these early adventures in Oceans Apart. After more than enough trips to the war zone, I lucked out and landed a job on the other side of the world in Puerto Rico. I was hired by their Department of Natural Resources as captain of their research vessel, the Morojo. At the time, the Navy was using their offshore islands for target practice, and they were just blowing the coral reefs to smithereens. And our mission was to slip into the target zone and document the damage they were doing to the reefs, in the hopes of filing an environmental impact statement and forcing the Navy to stop the bombing. And we succeeded, on the island of Culebra at least. And I wrote about that adventure in Islands Under Fire. After Puerto Rico, I took part in another ocean study, this one off the Atlantic coast, and it was a study of the Atlantic currents. By now, I was a full-fledged oceanographer, and I smoked a pipe to prove it. My next expedition took me to Peru to study the Humboldt Current. And I sailed aboard the research vessel Melville with oceanographers from Oregon State University, from Woods Hole, from Scripps Institute, among others. But like Melville himself, I was really itching to tell my stories, not simply live them. And I was drawn to film. My early documentaries took me back to the Caribbean and to the Pacific. And those films were about island cultures and about their marine environments. I fell in love with Samoa, Guam, Saipan, beautiful islands, beautiful people. And it was hard to resist going native. Soon after, I got to direct my dream miniseries, Pirate Tales with Roger Daltrey. And despite his rock star celebrity, he was really a pleasure to work with, most of the time, that is. We got to film on classic sailing ships, and it was all good fun. Friends and family making cameo appearances. Although I was somewhat embarrassed by my own appearance as a pirate captain. In the 1990s, National Geographic called, and over the years I worked on over 20 films for Nat Geo. Most of them had really strong messages about preserving the environment, and we won a few Emmys. Some films like Sea Monsters took me out to sea again, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But now it was time to pass the torch. I now teach environmental filmmaking at the Savannah College of Art and Design. And I encourage my students to turn off those smartphones and get out into nature. They learn how to film on land, they learn how to film underwater. They've made films from the rainforests of Colombia to the Alaska tundra, They're out there exploring caves, diving in coral reefs, and even jumping out of airplanes. And I'd like to think that my most enduring legacy will be inspiring future environmental filmmakers. And I especially hope to inspire the newest generation, like Josephine and Madeline McCarey. So, where will the ocean take me next? Who knows? But I still have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep.
So please help me welcome and congratulate the Grace Reef National Marine Sanctuary Lifetime Achievement Award winner, Kevin McCarey.
Well, I can't thank you guys enough for this. This is a really terrific honor, especially, coming from, an organization I care so much about, which is Grace Reef National Marine Sanctuaries. I have to single out my partner in crime and soul sister, Kathy Levitt, who has supported this festival right from the very beginning. And Kathy, thank you so much, for all of this. Keen Smart, my good friend and former colleague at National Geographic. Keenan's hiding back there somewhere, but that's okay. We're used to that. Keenan, I would say he was in charge of developing, supervising, overseeing more quality natural history films at National Geographic than anyone else. And he's an absolutely amazing man. And if you would like to thank him for all of the great National Geographic films that you've seen in the past, he'll never say no to a single malt scotch at the Marshall House after the screening. I want to thank Brother Garrett McCarey, for coming down from New York for this. Garrett and I worked together on an environmental survey of the Hudson River, and some years later, he was the one who got me my very first job as a filmmaker. It was a documentary on Sing Sing prison, and of course there were times I wondered if it was only because he wanted to see his older brother do some time on the slammer. I have to point out my son Brett, who's here, and I think he's hiding up there on the balcony with Josephine. It's not easy being raised by a father who is off in the middle of nowhere filming God knows what all the time. Somehow, miraculously, he turned out surprisingly normal, I think. Or at least a better father to his own two daughters. And I don't know if Josephine would agree with that or not. What do you say, Josie? It sounded kind of wishy-washy there. I mean, of course, my partner in life, Fran McCarey. Fran is an accomplished woman in her own right. First off, as a filmmaker, and now is a nurse for people with movement disorders, Parkinson's disease and the like. And I tell you, she has a heart as deep and wide as the ocean itself, and I'm so grateful to have her in my life. I really am. Thank you, Fran. Okay, sanctuaries. When we think of the word sanctuary, we often think of places where innocent people who are under siege find refuge. And as many of you already know, the oceans are under siege like never before in their history, from overfishing, from pollution, global warming, acidification, you name it. And our national marine sanctuaries are really places of refuge where if there's any hope for healing, those are the places where that healing will take place. And as Sarah had mentioned before, and it's amazing how few people are really aware of it, the oxygen in every second breath we take comes from plant life in the ocean. And it's absolutely essential to our survival as a species. And the marine sanctuaries, you know, it's not like going to Disneyland. Those are places that are absolutely essential to the survival of us as a species. And that's why I'm so grateful that there's a new generation of filmmakers out there ready to carry the torch, ready to spread the word. And if you wouldn't mind, if you could just put the lights up a little bit. Any of my former, present, and future film students, and those of you who had films in this thing, if you wouldn't mind standing up and being recognized, I would really appreciate it. Come on up, guys. Yeah. And also, Josephine McCarey. Josephine McCarey up there. Do you mind standing up and being recognized, please? We saw you up on the big screen with your underwater camera. We're counting on you, kid, to make some good use of it, okay? So, with that said, thank you so much for all of this, and again, thank you for this new generation. Okay, on with the show.
Thank you, Kevin. So, in keeping with the theme of Lifetime Achievement, our next film is another Lifetime Achievement Award winner, Jean-Michel Cousteau's Secret Ocean, also in 3D, so get those glasses back out. Jean-Michel Cousteau will take us on an adventure underwater and